Hey guys, I wanted to provide the reading for the Soviet response as well. Remember, there's a chart at the bottom of the Google document. Once you're done highlighting the reading, you need to copy and paste the information here. Just follow the instructions. So this is from Andrei Zhadanov, okay, and this is his response to Truman's speech that we just read. The more the war recedes into the past, the more distinct becomes two major trends in post-war international policy corresponding to the division of the political forces operating in the international arena into two major camps: the imperialist and anti-democratic camp on the one hand, and the anti-imperialist and democratic camp on the other. The principal driving force of the imperialist camp is the USA. Allied with it are Great Britain and France. The imperialist camp is also supported by colony-owning countries such as Belgium and Holland, by countries with reactionary anti-democratic regimes such as Turkey and Greece, and by countries politically and economically dependent upon the United States, such as the Near Eastern and South American countries and China. The cardinal purpose of the imperialist camp is to strengthen imperialism, to hatch a new imperialist war, to combat socialism and democracy, and to support reactionary and anti-democratic pro-fascist regimes and movement everywhere. In the pursuit of these ends, the imperialist camp is prepared to rely on reactionary and anti-democratic forces in all countries and to support its former adversaries in the war against its wartime allies. The anti-fascist forces comprise the second camp. This camp is based on the USSR and the new democracies. It also includes countries that have broken with imperialism and have firmly set foot on the path of democratic development, such as Romania, Hungary, and Finland. Indonesia and Vietnam are associated with it. It has the sympathy of India, Egypt, and Syria. The anti-imperialist camp is backed by the labor and democratic movement and the fraternal communist parties in all countries, by the fighters for national liberation in the colonies and dependencies, by all progressive and democratic forces in every country. The purpose of this camp is to resist the threat of new wars and imperialist expansion, to strengthen democracy, and to expatriate the vestiges of fascism. Notice who they're referring to, by the way, as democratic and not democratic. As embodiment of a new and superior social system, the Soviet Union reflects in its foreign policy the aspirations of progressive mankind, which desires lasting peace and has nothing to gain from a new war hatched by capitalism. The Soviet Union is a staunch champion of liberty and independence of all nations and a foe of national and racial oppression and colonial exploitation in any shape or form. The successes of the growing international prestige of the Democratic camp were not to the liking of the imperialists. Even while World War II was still on, reactionary forces in Great Britain and the United States become increasingly active, striving to prevent concerted action by the Allied powers, to protract the war, to bleed the USSR, and to save the fascist aggressors from utter defeat. The sabotage of the Second Front by the Anglo-Saxon imperialists, headed by Churchill, was a clear reflection of this tendency, which was in point of fact a continuation of the Munich policy in the new and changed conditions. But while the war was still in progress, British and American reactionary circles did not venture to come out openly against the Soviet Union and the democratic countries, realizing that they had the undivided sympathy of the masses all over the world. But in the concluding months of the war, the situation began to change. The British and American imperialists already manifested their willingness to respect the legitimate interest of the Soviet Union and the democratic countries of the Potsdam Tripartite Conference in 1945. The foreign policy of the Soviet Union and the democratic countries in these past 2 years has been a policy of consistently working for the observance of the democratic principles in the post-war settlements. I'm going to skip to the bottom. Soviet foreign policy proceeds from the coexistence for a long period of the two systems, capitalism and socialism.